So Pete, thanks so much for talking to us today. And this is really about talking about you and your experience of becoming the Chief Exec at Fair Scotland, and also, I guess, your journey in navigating that space to get here, and any maybe hints and tips you might have for people who are looking to do the same type of thing. So do you want to maybe give us a wee bit of insight into the role you're doing now and kind of how you got there?
Yes, certainly. So role here at Fair. Fair is a community-based project in Easterhouse. They've been here since '89, very much about engaging with the community at grassroots level, as one of the things that drew me to the role in the first place. I'm very passionate about that community-based project. How I got here was a roundabout kind of way. My previous role before coming here was working for Money Advice Scotland, which I've done for the last 4 years. And I just reached a point within Money Advice Scotland where I felt I'd kind of finished that circle of change, that we'd been through a strategic review and we'd got to a place. But also time of life thing with my kids leaving the nest and all of that kind of thing. I thought maybe it's time to do some interim work. I was quite looking forward to doing some of that and thought that I would like to do a bit of interim work. And I spoke to you about that at the time as I was thinking of moving on from Money Advice Scotland and exploring that. And so the journey, after a conversation with you about the direction of travel, we came to the conclusion that maybe I should focus on the interim chief exec for a while. And so I went off and did that, and you carried on recruiting for this post, and things just derailed for them along the way. And then out of the blue, after about 6 weeks, you phoned me up and said, this is what's gone wrong here, and there's an opportunity here, and would you like to consider it? Initially, you we're talking about maybe doing an interim post here, but introductions through the chairman and everything else, I seem to have ended up signing a permanent contract.
Yes, it's funny, isn't it, how you kind of think off with a plan for starting off somewhere here and then it kind of changes, or it can change into something else. And I guess your plan wasn't to become the permanent chief exec anywhere then, was it? It was more about kind of having a different style of working?
Yeah, I just something I'd wanted to do for a long time. I've been a chief exec for about 10 years in various roles, and I just felt that I wanted to do it. And it's partly because of that window in my life's journey. There's a window in the life's journey where I could step out and do that. So yeah, it was definitely a different journey I was on, but I was really grateful for the conversation that we'd had about it and looking into considering one option or the other. And so it definitely wasn't on the cards to go into another full-time position. I was thinking I might do interim for a few years. So yeah, it's funny how these things kind of land.
Yeah, and I think it shows real kind of strength as well, and that people can be flexible and things can change, because as you know, being a chief exec's a bit like that anyway, and it's not always straightforward. And I think you end up, it's funny how things work out, and you know what should have been does happen.
It's not always true, but what's for you doesn't go by you in a way. And because when I looked at that interim role and started to think about that, I did, looking at that flexibility to think about it, I kind of woke up one morning after resigning, not having an interim role to go to. I sort of panicked and thought, I need to have a job. And so I did apply, and then we had that conversation, and I then felt I needed to withdraw from it. And that's what I did. And then you supported me again in some of the work that we were doing on the interim stuff. And then it just come back again. So it just underlines your point that it does sometimes get that way, that what's for you doesn't go by you.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because I think a lot of people are probably in the position you were in, where you're in a role and you think you've kind of taken it to where you can. It's quite a brave step to leave a job without another job for some people. Not everyone's, kind of wants to do that or able to do it. So I think it takes a certain type of person to do that, because actually sometimes looking for a job, certainly at this level, can feel like a job itself. Yeah. So if you're in the position to do that, then that's probably quite a nice place to be. Without then you start getting the panic of, oh my God, I don't have a job today.
Yeah, and it's not like I had loads of money in the bank or anything else like that, but it's getting to a point where certainly in the last year or two, really thinking about values and what it was that I wanted to be doing. Less pressure because the kids are gone and other bits and pieces like that, and a bit more stable in life in that way, but still reaching a point where I think a big part of that in senior leadership is if you take on a job because it's the next run on the ladder and you haven't thought about why am I doing this, chances are you won't stay there very long. And so I think that exercise of actually exploring, and again, the relationship going back a number of years for us, is that's something that's been dripped in over the years, is about those values. What are your key values? What is it that you're getting out of bed for in the morning, I suppose? And so that certainly drove me. I felt that there was nothing more I could do in a way at Money Advice Scotland, not without some major changes. And I also felt that I just needed to step into something else and exploring those values. So yeah, it's not like I've got millions in the bank and I can afford to do it. It just felt like the right thing to do.
And that's important, because I think sometimes you see people staying in jobs for a long time when actually they don't want to be, and it's maybe not working out along the way. So being able to have that kind of clarity is quite important. I think the values piece, particularly in an organisation like FAIR, where we are now, is ever since I've been working with FAIR, it's through everything that they do, and working with the board, it just came over so clearly. And when I've known you for quite a while now, so knowing that was quite clear from you as well in our conversations, obviously that tied up quite nicely. And when we were discussing it, it was very strong from you. That's what attracted you.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that you picked up on, which again is the value of the relationship, isn't it? Is that you were able to tie the two together. So even though you felt it was right for me not to go forward at the time because it wasn't going to be an interim role, you knew what was needed here at FAIR. You knew that wasn't going to be an interim role, but you knew me well enough to know that there was stuff here that would excite me and also would really use my skill set. And so that's how the conversation come around again on that front. So yeah, absolutely.
So now that you've gone through the process and you're in the job, what kind of advice would you give to people who are looking to do the same kind of thing, particularly people who are maybe looking to step up into their first chief exec job?
Oh, that's a good question. It's not always about the search, I think. I think it's often about the fit. And also I think it's not always about the search as being able to be found. And I think, again, coming back to the long-term relationship of working with recruiters like yourself, is that you get to know and then you get found in that way. And so I think it's about trusting some of those elements of what your skills are, knowing yourself, exploring some of those things if you're stepping in. Never ever believe what they tell you on the surface. They give you a great job description and a glowing report and everything else. And in 25 years at senior leadership, I've never stepped into a position where it's actually what it is on the tin. It's definitely not that in these times. But there certainly is adventure to be had. And sometimes those roles that look more rough are the ones where you can actually achieve more in those things. And so I think we're certainly living in a season where it pays to be brave to step into these things. And if it doesn't work out, and sometimes we panic, back to another point that you're raising about stepping out of one job into another, senior leadership, that something will come up as you're stepping into those things if you're moving forward into those things. But I think the underlying thing would be never believe what's on the tin, because it's not what's true under the surface. And yeah, if you go in with that frame mind, then you won't be disappointed when you discover it.
So if someone was kind of trying to make that first step, for instance, and we're trying a few different things, and maybe got to the second stage of interviews and hadn't quite got the job yet, and we're starting to feel a bit kind of disheartened or want to try to do something different, would you have any advice around that?
Well, I think you're doing very well if you step into your first job from your first interview. So learn from the process for sure. It's not failure unless you didn't learn anything from it. So you certainly want to take that apart. I've certainly had opportunities where I've had conversations with trusted friends, get as much feedback as you can from the employer that turned you down, for sure, and ask them to be honest. Sometimes they're trying to cage you in trying to be nice to you, but we don't need people to be nice to us if we're trying to step up. But also it's having that process in place. If you're going through a recruiter like yourself, then you are in a position to give honest feedback, because you're not just there to sort out the organisation and get paid for getting somebody. Yeah. It's very important to you. It always has been my impression that you work as much with me as you do with the organisations that you're trying to put me in. So it's really listening and being open to that. But if you feel the call to be in senior leadership, don't stop. Just keep going, because it's not for everyone. It certainly isn't for everyone, and it's just something that I think learn from those experiences. It's only failure if you don't learn anything from it.
Yeah, and I think the third sector at the moment is quite a competitive place for these senior roles, and not even just from people within the sector. People from out with the sector are looking to move into the space, and people are moving up and across. And there's lots of, we're certainly experiencing that when we are going out to market with chief exec roles and these senior leadership roles in particular. So I think it's quite an exciting place to be in the third sector just now.
I think it's tough, but I agree with you. I do think it's exciting. I think that there is a lot of moving around happening in different places, but I do think there are opportunities for people who are stepping up or wanting to step up for the first time into those leaderships. Within the third sector, for sure, what I would say is that we find ourselves as a sector, having been around it for a long time, we find ourselves in a sector where, to a certain degree, we're in uncharted waters. And that can be exciting in the fact that what's gone before doesn't work anymore. We've got major issues around funding, we've got major issues around employment, we've got major issues around strategy, stuff that used to work. We've got major issues around governments, both north and south of the border. There are struggles going on within there. Funding is all disappearing. But I do think there are opportunities for people who've just got new ideas, creative ideas. And sometimes it's about stepping out of the box, isn't it? You might have been in one sector for a long time, but actually the skill set is lifting that up into a completely different sector. That enables the board to look at things from a different perspective with somebody with different gifts and things. But I do feel that that uncharted waters element that we're in, where just everything that we used to hang on to is gone. I think that there are opportunities to just get out there and see what happens, just to see what happens. Yeah.
And would you say funding then is probably the biggest challenge facing the sector at the moment?
Funding's always the biggest challenge facing the sector, I think. But I am optimistic, strangely.
That's nice.
I am optimistic for 2025. And I think that's because everything that we've tried for a long time, going back to being in uncharted waters, those things just no longer work. And so we've got to think about new ways of doing it. And one of the things that was really fantastic, one of the pluses of the pandemic, if you like, is the third sector really came together. It just, all the barriers went, all the silos disappeared, and everybody was throwing themselves in to solve a problem. We started to see that changing again as we came out of the pandemic, and then we hit the cost of living crisis, and everybody was kind of fearful again and just protecting their silos. But actually, we're stepping back into, there's almost like a second tide coming in of collaboration being absolutely crucial. So there's plenty of opportunities here at FAIR, for instance. It's been a bit isolated over the last couple of years, but I've been out and about talking to the different partners that are around, and there are plenty of opportunities for us to be working with them. And one of the big things that our funders are looking for is collaboration and new ideas. So if you are somebody who's got creative ideas, new ideas, I don't think we need intelligent leadership, and I don't think we need long histories of leadership. I think we need brave leadership, and I think we need to try those new partnerships, and we need to explore those things, and we need to be ready to say, I can't do everything, or just because we've done it that way for a long time, that we carry on doing it. We need to explore new partnerships. And so, yeah, I think I think it's an exciting time. And 2025 year of optimism and hope is in my mind.
I think that seems like a very good place to finish on, optimism and hope, and brave leadership. And thanks so much for that, Pete. It's been really nice chatting to you, and hopefully we'll have inspired a few people to take that leap and follow everything you said. So thanks.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
Bless you.